They used to agree, but now they don't speak. And the reason isn't a tweet, it's a deal. They shook hands once on the same idea of freedom. They laughed at the same jokes about the establishment. But that was before. Before ambition blurred the line between ally and enemy. Back in 2020, when Elon Musk walked into a private room in Mar-a-Lago with a vision so grand it needed discretion, power, and one very specific ally: Donald J. Trump. Elon had been working silently on a satellite network that wouldn't just provide global internet. It would control the flow of information. Uncensored, unfiltered, untouchable. "It's the future," he said. Trump leaned back in his chair, calculating. "And what do you want from me?" "Protection," Elon answered, "and access to the regulatory backdoors your team already built." That was the handshake that broke the world before it even started. Weeks later, whispers began. A tech political pact no one could confirm, but everyone feared. Then the silence started. No tweets, no comments, just silence, until Elon tweeted, "Sometimes your biggest supporter turns into your biggest threat." Everyone thought it was about Zuckerberg. It wasn't. In early 2022, Trump held a rally in Texas. Buried in his speech was a single sentence that wasn't in the teleprompter. "We had visionaries. Some just wanted power." Those words stung like a slap across Silicon Valley. Reporters scrambled to piece the puzzle. A business deal gone wrong? A clash of egos? Or something deeper, something about power, surveillance, and betrayal? What no one knew was that both men had signed a document, off the record, handwritten. No digital trace, but someone saw it, a former aide, and she was scared. She disappeared weeks later. At the end of 2022, SpaceX's launch schedule suddenly shifted. One major satellite was delayed due to internal restructuring. In truth, it had been repurposed. Trump knew. He waited. In early 2023, a secret intelligence briefing landed on a desk deep inside Langley, codename Project Tyrant. The document outlined a dual initiative system, tech infrastructure and message control, built to run parallel to global communication channels. Two names were on the file: E. Musk and D. Trump. The CIA marked it not verifiable, but one section was underlined in red: if leaked, destabilizing consequences globally. And that's when both men began erasing traces. Elon focused on AI. Trump shifted his speeches to national security. But something had already slipped into the wrong hands. A journalist in London, a former staffer from the FCC, an intelligence analyst in Mexico. Each had a piece of the story, none had the whole. That someone wasn't human. To be continued. Chapter 2. The silence was a message. The deal that broke them apart. Through meetings with watchful eyes and hushed voices, something had changed. And the world was beginning to feel it. On a warm summer night in Austin, Elon was overheard saying at a private dinner, "The mistake wasn't the deal. It was who I trusted." He never said Trump's name. He didn't have to. 3 days later, a document appeared anonymously on a small European server. It was quickly removed, but not before it spread through encrypted journalist forums. The file, a draft of a surveillance protocol. Designed for an alternative communication channel, authored by engineers affiliated with SpaceX and reviewed by a political advisor tied to the Trump campaign. Was it real? No one could confirm. But a tweet from a reporter in Sweden set the internet on fire. They were building a parallel internet, one controlled by two men. The tweet was deleted in minutes. The account went dark. From that point, public appearances of Trump and Musk were rare. Elon canceled a keynote in Florida where Trump was expected to attend. Trump mentioned the betrayal of tech billionaires in an Iowa speech without naming names. Every word, every silence, Every missed handshake became data points in a growing theory. Then came the leak no one could ignore, TireNet. A whistleblower from within a cybersecurity firm dropped a folder labeled TireNet documentation. It outlined a theoretical infrastructure that could bypass traditional internet gateways, creating a network invisible to most existing monitoring systems. It wasn't just a satellite system. It was power. Pure, unregulated power. And the final page had a logo, an eagle with a circuit board in its talons. Analysts across Europe and the US confirmed that several of the technologies matched classified military R&D efforts, except these weren't coming from governments. They were private, funded in shadows, overseen by people outside the chain of command. At the center of it all, two egos, once aligned, now at war. In October 2023, a surveillance image leaked from a secure facility in Utah. Two silhouettes. One was clearly Elon. The other, taller, broader, was speculated to be a former intelligence chief connected to Trump's team. They weren't talking. They were arguing. Mouths tense, gestures sharp. A document on the table between them. A week later, Trump tweeted, "America will not be sold. Not to China, not to billionaires, and not to anyone playing God." Elon responded with a meme of a chessboard missing a king. 2 days of media firestorm followed. Analysts tried to decode everything. But it wasn't the tweets that worried those in power. It was what hadn't been said. Satellite command relay. No nameplates, no records, but someone knew what it was, and someone had lit the match.
Trump flew to New York the next day. Elon canceled all appearances for 2 weeks. When the press tried to connect the dots, a senior aide said only, "They're not allies. They're not enemies. They're something else." No one asked further questions, because they already knew. Silence is louder when it comes from people used to owning the world. To be continued.
Satellite command relay. No nameplates, no records. But someone knew what it was, and someone had lit the match. Trump flew to New York the next day. Elon canceled all appearances for 2 weeks. When the press tried to connect the dots, a senior aide said only, "They're not allies, they're not enemies, they're something else." No one asked further questions, because they already knew. Silence is louder when it comes from people used to owning the world. To be continued. They never spoke again. But their silence became louder than war. January 2024, Davos, Switzerland. The World Economic Forum was in full motion. Suits, cameras, and cautious optimism. But there was one name no one dared speak openly, and one man who didn't need to show up to be present: Donald Trump. Elon Musk arrived in his usual fashion: black coat, no tie, unreadable expression. His speech was about sustainability, but his mind was elsewhere. Everyone who watched closely knew something deeper was unraveling. In the hallway, a diplomat whispered, "There's a deal in the shadows, and it doesn't include governments." Elon passed by the mirror in his hotel room that night and paused. A letter had been slipped under the door. No name, just a time and a place. He knew what it was. Back in the US, Trump was preparing for a private fundraiser. Behind closed doors, he was meeting with 2 ex-CIA officers and a cybersecurity investor. They weren't discussing campaigns, they were discussing control. But neither Trump nor Elon knew that they were both being watched by the same people who had once helped build their empires, and now feared they had gone too far. That week, an internal report from a European intelligence agency titled Tier Phase 2 was leaked to a Dutch journalist. It suggested that the real purpose of the Tier net wasn't just surveillance. It was simulation, modeling behavior, predicting dissent, creating narrative frameworks that could be inserted into media flows without detection. The question wasn't who controlled it. It was, what if no one did anymore? In a closed meeting at Davos, Elon spoke with 3 global leaders. He offered one thing: access, limited, monitored, but access to something bigger than the cloud. In return, he wanted protection, immunity from any future leaks. They didn't give him a yes, but they didn't say no. Trump, meanwhile, made a different move. He sent a message, not digitally, but physically. A private envelope hand-delivered to a newsroom. Inside, one sentence handwritten on White House stationery from 2020. Reporters didn't publish it, but someone took a photo, and that photo ended up in the inbox of someone who had worked on TierNet's original codebase. She hadn't spoken publicly in years,